clearer to us that the problems our nation is facing is more than political. That our problem will require quite a bit of spiritual solution. We as a country are blessed. We are blessed with people with great intelligence. We are blessed with all manners of resources, and yet we have so many problems. And it's not as if the people in authority are not trying their best. They're doing as much as humanly possible. And then we find that when you have problems that are beyond humans' ability to solve.
With all due respect to our Reverend Papa Adeboye, I think he's wrong. He's being economical with the truth. Nigeria does not have a spiritual problem. Prayer will not solve the problem in this country. The problem we are facing in this country is not caused by Satan, demons, or God. Like he said, God has blessed Nigeria with all the natural resources. It is not in the place of God to come down and develop our resources for us. It is the place of human to develop that resources, make it even, and create wealth for the people. It is the duty of humans, the people in Nigeria, to utilize those resources for the betterment of everyone, not God, not Satan. Therefore, we should stop disturbing the spiritual. The spiritual has already given us everything we need. It is our duty to utilize what the spiritual has given to us, same way other countries are utilizing their own resources for the betterment of their country and the citizens of their country. When Pa Adeboye is speaking, I will say he is being cut off from the reality, and I'm going to tell you why. Pa Adeboye grew up in a Nigeria where the economy was stable. Pa Adeboye grew up in a Nigeria where there was security. Pa Adeboye grew up in a Nigeria that we were enjoying development. Of course, it was a military regime, but whatever you are seeing in Nigeria today was handed over to us by the military head of state. Pa Adeboye experienced a Nigeria that the naira was stronger than the dollar. Pa Adeboye experienced in Nigeria that you don't even need to struggle to get visa to travel to the UK. People were traveling to the UK on weekend to go and enjoy themselves in the UK and come back the following day to continue with their work. Pa Adeboye experienced in Nigeria when the moment you are done with school, there's job waiting for you. Papa Adeboye experienced in Nigeria at his tender age where appointment was based on merit, competency, not tribalism and nepotism. Papa Adeboye experienced in Nigeria where our educational system was flourishing, like Nigeria educational system was competing with other educational systems in the world. The level of religious activities during Pa Adeboye's younger age was less compared to what we are having now. The number of churches, mosques then was less compared to what we are having now. Therefore, I will say that the level of prayer, the level of spiritual activities then was less compared to what we have now. So how did Nigeria experience all these things I've mentioned without prayer, without reckoning the spiritual? How were they able to get all this development they enjoyed then without associating it to the spiritual? The answer is very simple. We were able to enjoy those things because we were just fresh from the colonial masters that have laid the groundwork, the framework for our development. And the people that took over from the colonial masters, even though the world hindered the progress, they tried to copy what the colonial masters were doing, and they did everything possible to ensure that they maintained the peace, unity, and development in this country without reckoning it to prayer. Prayer was not a factor. The factor there was human. The humans there were patriotic to their country. They were doing everything possible to ensure that they bring development to Nigeria, even though we know there were corrupt politicians then. But politicians were being punished for their corrupt practices. Compare it to our days now. There are churches and mosques in every street in this country. Every nook and cranny of this country is filled with churches and mosques. Many people are engaging more in religious activities, and our prayer now has intensified. If prayer is needed to develop this country, to move this country forward, Nigeria would have been the most developed country in the whole world. Take a look at this graph. This is the list of the most prayerful countries in the whole world. Afghanistan is at first 96%, Nigeria is in second place 95%. In your second right, these are the countries that prayed less. You have China at 1%, UK at 6%, Switzerland 8%, and the rest. Now, if you look at this graph carefully, you will notice something significant. The top 9 countries that pray the most, they are all living in poverty. They are all having one insecurity issues or the other. These countries are underdeveloped. Compare it to the countries that prayed less. Look at China. China is one of the most powerful countries in the world. Look at their prayer level, 1%. The most industrialized country in the world is China. Look at UK, Switzerland, Australia, Czech, Germany, Estonia, France, Denmark. These countries are way advanced than the countries that pray more. What does it tell you? It shows you that God is not responsible for your underdevelopment. God is not responsible for your development. The people that are responsible for your underdevelopment and your development are the people in that country. Your leaders, the citizens. Leave God out of this. Papa Adeboye is a reverend religious leader. His voice carries weight and it cuts across the country. There are a lot of persons that are listening to him and they take whatever he says, hook, line, and sinker. When he said things like this, it's very, very pathetic because he is not saying the truth. He's being economical with the truth. I'm sorry to say this, he is not being truthful. He is not being truthful, and that is a fact. Things like this can make the people at the helm of affairs to be docile, to be reluctant. They will not do what they are ought to do because they are being told that they need to relinquish their power to develop this country to God, whereas God does not have any business in developing our country. The people that have the business in developing our country are our elected officials. But when someone like Pa Adeboye comes up and says things like this, it makes these people to be reluctant to do what they're supposed to do. That is why you keep seeing our leaders telling us to pray. If we needed prayer to move this country forward, then what exactly are they doing there? Why are they being elected? It means they are useless. They should leave the office and allow us to elect Jesus to come and do the work for us. What Pa Adeboye is giving is an excuse for failure, and this is what people do when they fail. Many countries in the world, they face similar problem that Nigeria is facing. They've gone through the same problem that Nigeria has experienced. They've experienced civil war, they've experienced earthquake, they've experienced all manner of natural disaster, even human disaster. But they rose up from their rooms to develop their country. Look at Japan. Japan experienced the Second World War. Japan experienced Hiroshima, but they're not leaving it to God. They've rose up from their rooms and they've developed their country. Everyone in Japan is working hand in hand to ensure that they fix their country. They're not asking their citizens to pray. Yes, prayer is good, but prayer will not take the place of the human endeavor. Prayer will not fight corruption for you. Prayer will not elect good leaders for you. Prayer will not fix your country. Prayer will not solve your security. Prayer will not solve your economic downtown. Prayer will not do any of this. The people that will do these things are humans, because it is humans that are causing this problem in our country. Kenya experienced ethnic cleansings, but go to Kenya today. They have moved past their problem and they are living together as one. Over 50 years that the civil war was fought in Nigeria, we are yet to resolve the issues that led to the civil war. Till date, we are still battling with tribalism, we are still battling with religion, we are still battling with marginalization. Even as we are talking to you now, tribalism, religion, they are even worse than what we experienced during the civil war. Now, is Pa Adeboye trying to tell me that we'll need prayer to solve these issues? No, prayer cannot solve these issues. This is a human issue. You cannot pray for people to stop having tribal sentiment. You cannot pray for the government to stop marginalizing some region. You don't do that. Prayer will not solve this issue. So what exactly is Papa Adeboye trying to tell us to do with prayer? What exactly will prayer do? Will prayer have prevented Nigerians from voting out Goodluck Ebele Jonathan and voting in President Muhammadu Buhari, whom Pa Adeboye supported ahead of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan? Is it prayer that will change the mind of Nigerians not to choose a colossal failure like President Muhammadu Buhari ahead of Goodluck Ebele Jonathan? Will prayer have stopped INEC and the judiciary from rigging the election in favor of Bola Ahmed Tinubu? I mean, these politicians, they all belong to one religion, organization or the other. So if you're talking about prayer, they also pray. Is it lack of prayer that made Bola Ahmed Tinubu to remove the petrol subsidy without putting things in place to alleviate the suffering of the people? Is it lack of prayer that made Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the National Assembly to buy 162 million SUV? Is it lack of prayer that made Bola Ahmed Tinubu to allocate 15 trillion naira to the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway? Is it lack of prayer that made Bola Ahmed Tinubu to allocate 90 billion for Hajj pilgrimage? Is it lack of prayer that made Bola Ahmed Tinubu to increase electricity tariff? Is it lack of prayer that made Bola Ahmed Tinubu to have the most expensive and over-bloated government in Nigeria? The number of government officials working in Bola Ahmed Tinubu is almost ×2 than what President Muhammadu Buhari has. Is it lack of prayer that is making our security agencies to be incompetent? They cannot even fight insecurity in our land. Is it lack of prayer that is making our institution to be in comatose? Is it lack of prayer that is responsible for the corruption in the civil service, in all our institutions? Is it lack of prayer that is responsible for the backwardness in this country? Nigerians have been praying. I grew up in church and I experienced prayer. I have been praying for this country even when I was young. People have been praying for this country. People, they've prayed for this country, they've died, they've gone, their children have risen, and they are also praying for this country. Our level of development 15 years ago has declined. Our economy has declined. Everything has taken 20 years backward. Experiencing all this while being the second most prayerful country in the world. And I need to ask a very important question. If prayer, according to Pa Adeboye, is very, very important, why didn't they pray when Goodluck Ebele Jonathan was in power? Why did Pa Adeboye lead a protest against Goodluck Ebele Jonathan? Why did they campaign against Goodluck Jonathan? Why did they vote him out? Why didn't they pray for him to succeed? Or is it different strokes for different folks? Why is Pa Adeboye not protesting against Goodluck Ebele Jonathan? Why is he not calling the government out the same way he called Goodluck Ebele Jonathan? Why is he not asking us to pray? We have been praying before. Prayer will not solve the issue, and the sooner these men stop talking the way they are talking, the better for us, because we cannot continue like this. We elected these people to fix this country. They promised to do something and they are falling short of their promise. The best thing to do is to hold them accountable and ask them to resign, not to tell them to pray. And he says something like, these people are trying. They are not trying. They are not even doing anything. They are doing the worst that we've ever experienced, because if they are trying, we would have been seeing a change. Tell me, in what area are they trying? What are the policies they've put out there to show that they are trying? At least in the next 3-4 years, we are going to see the dividends of what they are doing. Absolutely nothing. Just propaganda upon propaganda. And every day things keep getting worse in this country. Our problem is not lack of prayer. Prayer will not solve our issue. The only thing that can solve our issue is us, we Nigerians. And the problem is that we Nigerians, we are not ready to solve our issue. That is the reason why you have a reverend religious leader coming to tell us to pray, rather than asking us to put in the work, rather than asking us to elect competent leaders, rather than calling out the government in power for their failure. It is evident that the presidency of Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a failed presidency. It has failed. Tinubu is not doing anything to salvage the issues in this country. He has made everything worse. Call them out and stop speaking from both sides of the mouth. Stop being economical with the truth. It will not solve the problem. Prayer will not solve our problem. The only way we can solve our problem is when Nigerians decide to be patriotic to Nigeria rather than being patriotic to their tribe or religion. The only way we can solve our problem is when the politicians that have been voted by the people put in the work, sacrifice their time. They are patriotic to this country rather than being patriotic to their personal aggrandizement. That is the only way we can solve this problem we are experiencing. When they start doing what they've been elected to do, when they start allocating the money, the resources of this country into fixing the economy, into investing into the people, into fixing security, healthcare, schools, and every other thing, creating jobs. That is the only way we can develop as a nation. If we don't do these things, we will keep praying. Generation upon generation will come and go, and they will keep praying. And at last, this nation will go into extinct. God forbid. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next video.